Hi everyone, this is our first video on the tools of basic macro photography. I'm going to move these over here because we're not using them right now. The first one we're going to look at is this, the Humble macro lens. This is my macro lens. It's a Pentax K-mount Sigma 50mm 1:1 macro lens. Macro lenses come in 50mm, as far as I know. That's the shortest focal length, up to 100, 200, I think, maybe a couple of them. The advantage of having a macro lens in a 50mm is it's a standard focal distance. The advantage of having a macro lens in a 90 or 100mm, which I don't have, is that you can be further away from the subject and still achieve a macro photograph. So the first thing is, what is a macro photograph? You'll see on this lens, compared to a normal lens has a feet scale and a meter scale. This also has a ratio scale along the top. And what this means is that anytime you're into the ratio scale, 1 to 10, 1 to 7, 1 to 5, down to 1 to 1, all the way over here, that's macro, a macro photograph. And a 1:1 means that the image on the film negative or on the digital sensor, if it's a full frame digital SLR, is the same size as the actual subject. And one thing you'll also notice about, I can probably just leave that lens cap on, about this is that as it focuses, there we go, you'll see that the lens gets substantially longer than a standard 50mm lens. The advantage of a macro lens is that they're corrected in an engineering sense to account for lens distortion. So for instance, if you're photographing stamps or coins or something like that, these are a better solution typically than using a standard lens with one of the options the next video is going to look at, because the macro lenses are designed to prevent distortion around the borders of, say, a stamp. It's an easy example. Macro lenses also are very handy because they can focus to infinity. If I were to take a standard lens and put it on one of the options that we're going to look at next, I could not focus to infinity, meaning that the lens would only be good for macros for that purpose. With this, I can walk around taking pictures of macros, like insects or flowers or whatever, and then I can see, oh hey, over there across the street there's something interesting. I can focus on that as though this was, because this is also a standard 50mm lens. If I want to take a picture of a nice mountainscape or cityscape across a river or something like that, I can focus this at infinity and do that as well. In my opinion, the macro lens is the best basic option, though it's also the most expensive. When I was given this, my father gave me this as a gift one year, and it was a $400 lens in 1995. Macro lenses aren't cheap. Even old technology, M42 mount lenses, old manual focus, this is a manual focus lens. Macro lenses just aren't cheap. And it's because they're very high quality lenses. In fact, this lens takes some of the best infinity focus shots of any of my standard lenses, because the engineering in it is highly precise, allowing it to be a macro lens as well. They're just very well engineered lenses, macro lenses in general. So it's a good solution. It's also the most expensive, and to get a good condition macro lens on the inexpensive range, you can expect to spend about $150 to $200, maybe more, unless you happen to luck out and find one at a garage sale or something like that. So that's the macro lens. Next, in the next video, we're going to talk about another one of these macro systems.